G'day everyone, it's Duckville bringing you some Heart of the Swarm action. Today we're going to have a look at a PvZ. It is going to be on Howling Peaks, one of the more interesting looking maps. We'll talk about why it is a bit of a fun map in a moment, but let's just introduce our players. This replay has come from this young gentleman down here in the bottom left-hand side. I almost got my directions wrong then. That's a great way to start off a cast. As our Red Protoss here, who has released a replay pack, it is Triumph Esports Bones. He's going to be starting down here, looking to go for a fast expand, as you would always assume in the PvZ matchup. His opponent up at the top right-hand side has been just recently recruited to one of the new big teams on the block. It is AZUBU Sleep. And we'll see how he's going to go here today. Of course, Sleep, a wonderful Zerg player from the Korean scene, has been doing a really good job, but not necessarily just stomping through all of the tournaments, but has certainly been showing a lot of skill. And I think in Heart of the Swarm we'll probably see him do a lot more work in there, and perhaps even get his own sort of tournaments coming along. He's of course been through quite a lot of teams. He was in IM and then Slayers, and then Check 6 for a little while, and then of course switching over to AZUBU just recently. So this is looking, well, we should see a really interesting game. Of course, our Protoss player Bones is a Grandmaster level Protoss player. He's had some other really interesting games in the replay pack that he released. If you want to see that, that's down in the description. But some really cool games. Of course, I did a cast of his game against Hydra. It was a really weird sort of game at first, but then it sort of just turned a particular way. So go and check that one out if you haven't already. And it does look like he is going to start off with a Nexus first. Of course, a very nice economic build to utilize when you are against a Zerg opponent, of course, because your Zergs these days are always looking to get their fast expansions going. Of course, just a standard way to play out this particular matchup. Sleep is going to have a little bit of trouble here trying to get the hatchery down. It finally does go down the probe. Going to be a little bit upset about that. May try and just stick around and perhaps block off the other hatchery. In fact, that is the at least what he's going to do for the time being. But of course, with the spawning pool now done, Sleep is going to have the ability to pick up a couple of lings and get started with his, you know, protective duties that they are going to be doing. So Bones, well, you know, this map, you know, we're talking about how interesting it is. Of course, this is a very similar map to, I'm not sure if everyone will agree with me, but I'm sure it does have some kind of, you know, some kind of lead to the way it plays out. This map reminds me a little bit of Xel'Naga Caverns, if you remember all the way back to when that map was around. This, this sort of backdoor path that leads into your natural is something that can be a little bit worrisome. You can have attacks that can come through here. We see a lot of players, whether it be Protoss or Terran, you'll see either a gateway wall here, or perhaps even if, depending on how cheap you are, it might be a pylon wall with a couple of cannons behind it. Of course, the Terrans will throw down supply depots, all these kinds of things. But it is something you have to be a little bit concerned about sometimes. Just you do need to keep an eye on how that particular area of the map goes. Of course, you've then got a relatively open path outside the natural base leading across the map. There are a couple of Xel'Naga watchtowers out here as well. These don't actually really cover too much. They sort of they just provide a little bit of you know, sight on a couple of the attack paths, not to mention the base that is right next to them. So you know, these I don't know if these have a massive effect on the map. Like, I think it's better than having some of the Xel'Naga watchtowers, like if anyone remembers the very old Lost Temple and the Xel'Naga watchtowers that effectively covered the entire center section of the map, which was a big deal back then. You know, it's better than having ones that are just a massive deal like that. But you know, I don't know. I haven't really played too much on this map. Weirdly enough, I haven't actually gotten this map much in my online play. Probe just falling down there, trying to get a bit of a scout off through the natural base. Of course, another fun thing about this map, we'll try and keep an eye on it, is the ice that's here, or the snow, or whatever it is. I'm not exactly a frozen water specialist, but when some units die on this that with the new physics engine and all this kind of stuff, you can often see units just slide along the ice when they die. It's a really cool effect. Like, you know, you kind of think of it in very little terms when, you know, something like that is in there, but like when you add it into the other fantastic new visual effects that have been added into the game, it is really cool to see that kind of stuff. Like, I've been ranting and raving about that for a very long time now. But speaking of ranting and raving, what we'll do is we'll hold on to that for a moment. But Sleep is still sticking on 2 bases for now. Bones has scouted this out, at least for the time being. He knows that his opponent didn't take the quick third over here, nor did he take the base over here as well. So there is something a little bit fishy going on. It looks like an infestation pit has gone down from Sleep. He does have all 4 of his gases, so he is certainly going to have a lot of production capability here, and he has already researched the Overlord speed. Of course, this particular upgrade now comes as a standard in a 4-door with cup holders and power steering and all these kinds of things. But anyway, you can get this upgrade now at the hatchery, and this can provide you with the ability to see what's going on with your opponent very quickly. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised that Sleep has not just powered his Overlord through the base there to catch exactly what Bones is up to, but you can see that the Overlords are already in position, providing a little bit of a creep highway. This is a very old sort of tactic that doesn't really get used to often, but what Sleep is doing is going for a very quick swarm host play. He's got the Enduring Locust upgrade researching right now. He's also got 4 swarm hosts on the way. These guys are going to try and lumber their way down here. Of course, once they get on the highway, they'll be able to go at full speed, and then he'll probably be able to sit sort of anywhere around this sort of area just out here outside the natural base of Bones, and this is going to allow him to just siege up, just constantly attack into the natural base here with those free locusts that come out of the swarm host. So this will be very interesting to see how Bones deals with this. Just having a look at what he's got. The Robo is now just about to finish up here. He doesn't actually know exactly what is going on. I think that Sleep has denied him a lot of mining. But seeing this creep here is a big sign that something very terrible and dangerous is about to occur. The swarm hosts start burrowing here, as you can see. Just going to pop into the ground there. What they do is they release those little eggs on the ground, and then these little locusts pop out. These guys do 12 damage at a range of 3 and around about just over 1 shot per second, so they're very quick firing. They do a lot of damage, and they can be very troublesome to deal with. So we'll see what Bones is going to do. A lot of players like to respond with very quick Colossi to try and take these out, and I think Bones has got the correct response here, going double Robo. This is a good way to deal with this. Of course, Colossi provide a lot of splash firepower, which is what you need when there are a lot of these little locusts poking about in your base. So he's going to go double Robo to try and counteract this particular play that our Zerg player Sleep has gone for. But the problem is it's going to take quite a while for them to come out, and with more and more locusts now appearing, we've got a total of 6 locusts now here at the front door of Bones, not to mention the Queen's providing a little bit of anti-air cover, and then of course the creep is now starting to spread as well. So the Overlords that came across initially have now been sent back home. We can also see that Sleep is now getting his Hydra Groove Spines up and running, +1 on missile attacks and Carapace on the way, a Spire also going down, and his 3rd base has already gotten started. So Bones is he's in a little bit of a troublesome position right now. The Forge, of course, is extremely exposed. The Swarm Host could even target that Forge, and in fact that's actually what they're doing. So he's going to try and take out the Forge before anything can happen here. The Immortal sitting on the top of the ramp doesn't have enough line of sight on, or he doesn't have enough range to take down the Locusts. Of course, these two are very close, but unfortunately not close enough to the edge of the cliff there. And as we look at the worker tally, Sleep starting to take a big lead. He's up to 63 workers right now, and it looks like Bones' first Colossi are about to start popping out now as well. Once he has, I think the count is around about 3. It sort of depends how many swarm hosts you're dealing with. But once you have about 3, maybe 4 Colossi, then you can just march out and mow them all down. But you have to be very careful, of course. Your observers need to stay alive. This is the reason why we have the 3 Queens here, and those Overseers as well. And it looks like the bust out will begin, in fact, creating a hallucinated Archon with some of those sentries that were available. But Sleep, very quick on the draw there, pulls up the swarm host and then sends them back. He's going to even burrow a couple of them to try and slow down the advance of his Protoss opponent, and wow, nicely done by Sleep, takes the observer down, and this means that Bones cannot really go too much further until he has a little bit more detection out. He's got 2 Colossi still about to pop out, another observer also on the way, and along with that he's also got extended thermal lance, so he is going to be able to continue to push on. And this is a really interesting part of this this very early swarm host based play, where you sort of force the Protoss to go down a particular route with how they they respond to you, and a lot of players, as we said, will go for double robo. So this means that you then have a lot of Colossi out. We've got 4 Colossi out at the 13-minute mark, and this is something very powerful to try and stop. And you know, we'll see how Sleep is going to deal with it, because of course, you know, you've only got these swarm hosts. They're countered directly by the Colossi with Extended Thermal Lance and obviously an Observer up in the sky, but he now has a few Corruptors, so these guys will certainly be able to help out in dealing with the push that is going to come along here from Bones. Bones, meanwhile, still researching some of his upgrades. Level 2 on the weapons is on the way, but probably won't hit in time for this attack, but he is going to go in for it anyway. A Proxy Pylon helping out with some Warpins here. A lot of Stalkers available to try and push back those the Corruptors up in the air. Beautiful force field wall here from Bones. He's just going to target down that hatchery. I don't think that's going to survive too long. A couple more force fields will certainly help out there, and there they are. Wonderfully done. Good pushback. He's just sort of said, you know what, you've forced me into 2 base, you've forced me into a massive amount of Colossi, I need to get some damage done. And he has done that really well there. Bones doing a good job pushing back at Sleep. So despite that early pressure from those the swarm hosts that are still here, we've got a total of 9 of them out on the map at the moment. We'll probably see, but maybe, I don't know if he'll continue production of those, but what he probably will do is start really investing in the Hydras and the Roaches as well. In fact, he does have a Nidus Worm, a Nidus Network, sorry, so we may see a little bit of Nidus Worm action coming out of Sleep. Now, there are a couple of options for him. He could try and get an Overlord into position to put down the Nidus Worm inside the main base, or perhaps come out here to one of these positions across to the side. But what he is going to see is that Bones is looking to take a 3rd base, and this probe, unfortunately, going to get taken out there by that one Ling, but the Ling is going to block off, well, at least do a little bit of harassment there at the expansion before it goes up. And as we can see, we saw Sleep just trying to get another 3rd base down. Of course, he's now going to go for a total of 4 bases. He's still sitting on a total of 65 workers, so he slowed down on the drone production just for a short time while he had to augment his military units there, bringing out all of these Hydras. There's a total of 19 Hydras out on the map. Their upgrades are sitting at, of course, they've got the Groove Spines, and we can see that they've now got 2-2 on their upgrades as well. So these guys are going to do a really nice amount of damage. In fact, no, they don't have the upgrade for the speed just as of yet. In fact, where is it? There it is. No, he hasn't gotten that started. A little bit interesting to see that Sleep has not picked that up just yet. And then back behind this, he's also going to get a few more swarm hosts out. So he's going to really boost up that count. We've now got a total of something like, where is it, 15 or so? 14 swarm hosts out of the map, and it looks like the Lings are going to poke around, try and find some weak spots in the defenses of Bones. But Sleep now up at 193 supply. He's got his 2-2, which of course, keep in mind, does help out the Locusts as well as they pop out of the swarm host. So it looks like he is going to push in for an attack. A Nidus Worm going to provide some very quick reinforcements, and Sleep is going to be able to bring out a lot of units here, and he's going to siege up into the front door of Bones' natural base. But Void Rays have started to pop out. We do see a double Stargate here just off to the side for Bones, so he is going to have that air presence. Of course, the air units really helping out in dealing with the swarm host, but unfortunately, with so much anti-air here for Sleep, I'm not sure if he's going to really be able to push out too far with those first initial units. So Sleep is looking to try and capitalize on a perhaps a triple prong attack here, with the swarm host and the Hydras coming in from this direction, and then maybe even the front door of the natural as well. But the Lings are now attacking at the rocks at the back of the third base. So Sleep is looking to open up multiple paths into his opponent's base, and well, it looks like Bones he's got a very, very big, strong army there with all those Colossi. We've got, how many Colossi out? We've got 5 Colossi in this big mix. We've got 4 Void Rays, some Stalkers as well, and another Nidus Worm pops out here. So Sleep wanting to be very mobile. Of course, this is part of the problem with using the Swarm Host. They're a little bit like siege tanks. Well, in fact, they're a lot like siege tanks now, if I think about it a bit. So you have to be very careful because they are so immobile. So what he's done here with these Nidus Worms is he is trying to just provide the swarm hosts with a little bit more mobility around the map. So we'll see if he does utilize that a little bit further. But for the moment, it looks like this attack into Bones' third base is not really going to get too much done. The Colossi, of course, as we mentioned before, a fantastic way to deal with those Locusts. The Void Rays now starting to really climb in their number as well, sitting up there at a total of 6. The Corruptors trying to find a shot on the Colossi there, but not able to get it. The Swarm Host continually sending in those units into the third base base here, but with so much power, I'm not sure what this is going to do. What I would really like to see from Sleep is perhaps sending these Hydras around to the front, but as we said before, he still does not actually have the Hydra speed. I'm very, very surprised that he hasn't picked up that, oh, actually, sorry, yes he does. He has gotten it now, but what he is going to do is attack into the main base. Some Lings have now just swarmed their way through into the main. Meanwhile, the Swarm Hosts and the Hydras are going to pick up shop and head back home, but the Lings are getting a, well, they're not going to get too much damage done. Of course, you know, with the Void Ray up in the air and a couple of Zealots there as well, they're not really going to get too much done. They may pick off this Stargate. No way they're going to pick off that Stargate with the Colossus coming about. So, well defended by Bones. He has kept the majority of his forces here at the third base, so we will be able to protect against the few Swarm Hosts that have been left here up at the side. Only 5. Keep in mind, there's still like 10 or so of those back at home. In fact, they're inside the Nidus network here, so they're just waiting for their train to get to the station. In fact, we'll probably see him put down another Nidus Worm somewhere, but Bones, he's still getting out these Void Rays, really powering up to that late game army that does a huge amount of damage and becomes very, very hard for Zerg players to stop. But he is able to clean up the Nidus Worm and the few Swarm Hosts that were left over back for on Sleep's side of the map. He's able to get a 4th base up and is mining quite nicely, sitting there at 58 drones, so we did lose quite a few. I think I missed a little bit of that, sorry about that. But Bones is now up at 197 supply. He's maxed out, he's got upgrades coming out of every single place he can. Of course, the air upgrades on the way, Storm as well, not to mention the +1 to ground armor is on the way. So a little bit behind with the ground upgrades for his forces here, but he does have +3 weapons, which of course is the very important one. So Bones is, well, he's sitting quite comfortably right now. I mean, he is going to look to try and take on a 4th base, but it is going to be a little bit difficult with that Ling inside there. We also have a Nidus Worm just trying to burrow its way inside the main. Not going to happen. Stalker's blinking up, taking care of that very easily now. And, you know, Bones is just continuing to try and scout out what's going on. He's very good with the scouting, of course, just poking around, trying to see what's going on at these extra bases. Now as we see another Nidus Worm down the bottom right-hand side of the map. Sleep is just continually producing these Nidus Worms, trying to get that really big mobility around the map. The Hydra's coming across, trying to take out the Nexus. I think they will get it. If they target it down, they retreat. Very nicely done. Sleep takes out the 3rd Nexus of Bones. So he's trying to keep a lid on his opponent's macro. Of course, you know, we sort of mentioned it a little bit before. If a Protons player gets to this point where the Void Rays start numbering over around about sort of 10 or 12 or somewhere around that mark, and you're sitting on 3 or even 4 bases, Protoss gets very, very hard to stop. Of course, we start to see the Tempest come out, we see the Carriers even start to come out, and mixed in with some Colossi on the ground, even the Mothership Core to provide the Time Warp and these kinds of things to deal with units on the ground, the Protoss army just gets extremely difficult to deal with. So we'll have a look at what Sleep is going to do. He's still got a lot of spines protecting some of these bases here, as spined up the side as well, and looking to try and snipe off some of these units. He's not really going to get too much done, but I'll tell you what he is doing. He's distracting some of the forces of Bones, because down at the 3rd base, the Hydras are back again. They're trying to deal some damage here. May force a cancel on this Nexus. Yeah, that's definitely going to go down, or at least get cancelled. No cancel for Bones there, so does lose the Nexus with no cancel, unfortunately for him. Zealots coming in with their 103 upgrades, doing a decent job at taking out the Hydras, but the Hydras again forcing a cancel there. Bones is going to be very upset with the fact that he missed that. And he's going to finally get at least 1 cannon up for some defense, whereas at the 4th base that he is attempting to pick up, he is now sitting on a huge amount of cannons there. But the problem is, look at the supply difference. We've got Bones sitting up there at 191 supply. He's got a lot of units out on the map. Those very powerful late game units are starting to pop out, whereas for Sleep, he's still got these Swarm Hosts. And what are these Swarm Hosts doing? He's trying to sort of send them into this base to try and get some damage done, but unfortunately it's just not happening. The Locusts are just getting blasted down by the Colossi, and of course the Void Rays up in the air, and he's trying to move into a little bit of a later game composition here. 9 of these Broodlords about to pop out, so he is going to have a very dangerous and interesting army, but the problem is he has no real caster units to try and take advantage of you know, anything like Fungal. I know that Fungal has been pretty much obliterated quite a lot in the expansion, but I mean, it still can be used to try and lock down some of these units. It can lock down the Void Rays or the Colossi, these kinds of things, while the Corruptors go to town. he doesn't really have anything. It's just an army consisting of Broodlords right now, a few Hydras on the ground, and a lot of Corruptors. So he either needs to make really good use of the Swarm Hosts and perhaps move them around to get some multiple attacks going, or he needs to just win a very, very convincing fight here, because as we can see, the Broodlord's very slow, and this map has a lot of open areas, and with this huge amount of Void Rays now out, or in fact he's lost a few of them actually. Are they around the map somewhere? No, we've just got the 8, so he's lost a few of them, but there's still 8 Void Rays out, which is still a very deadly sort of amount to deal with. Of course, with their prismatic alignment, they can take care of the Corruptors very easily, being armored units. And now with the upgrades starting to creep up for Bones right now, and in fact, wow, I was going to say, where did that army go? It was right over there at one point, but he has recalled it across to his 3rd base, so he's just going to make sure that this base is protected, and Sleep is going to be in a very, very awkward position right now. Storm's going down from Bones, beautifully done, right on top of every single thing there, and despite the Stalkers running under that storm, they have got enough protection, of course, with the Void Rays here to help out as well, powering down those Broodlords and the Corruptors. Look at that, 12 plus 6 when they activate the Prismatic Alignment, and that is a dead Zerg army. So Bones taking a really big advantage at this point right now. He's forced Sleep to, you know, sort of start expanding to these very odd positions on the map. I'm very surprised he hasn't gone for this base here, not to mention the base up in the top left. Sleep expanding in a very sort of odd sort of way, taking this base down at the bottom side. Somehow after the cancellation was forced on this base, he gets it up straight away again. It looks like there are those Swarm Hosts. Okay, so what was looking like dead supply is now finally starting to be utilized here, with Sleep popping down those 11 Swarm Hosts now, gonna send them in towards this base here. Will Bones be able to defend? A couple of Tempests have now come in, but where is the detection? I don't think he has any sight. No, he doesn't really know exactly where they are, but well, not too much damage done here for Sleep. So the Colossus count still sitting at a total of 7. We've got 4 Void Rays, we've got 3 Tempests out on the map already, we've got a couple of Templar as well, along with a couple of other random sort of units here, and even DTs are starting to be put in the mix here by Bones. So he's really spreading things out. He's got a lot of different units, and Sleep again putting down another Nidus Worm to try and take advantage of the fact that his opponent is being spread very thin across the map, but Bones doing a good job with the DTs, harassing a little bit. The Broodlords still sitting out the side here, 11 Broodlords just up at that top section of the map. Unfortunately not really able to do much right now, but he is able to get a little bit of damage done with these Lings. Maybe he'll be able to take out the Cyber Court, tries to target it down, but some good force fields by Bones blocking that out. So the +3 on the air upgrades will continue here, and that means, as you know, as we can see here, the kinetic overload of the Tempest already doing 90 damage. Once the +3 weapons kicks in, that will do 95 damage against massive air units, which of course means that the Broodlords go down very, very quickly. So we'll see how Sleep is going to deal with this. This is starting to get to that very awkward position for a Zerg player, where you just sort of think, what am I going to do, because these units are just so powerful. Of course, we've got the Void Rays really kicking up in their numbers as well, back up to around about 9 Void Rays now, as well as those Tempests that are out, along with the Colossi that have been out on the map for effectively the start of the game. Look at the kills on, well, that's got 2, 37, and then you've got 50. You got 47, and then you know, 47 and 49. So these Colossi have been out for effectively the entire game, and despite some of the good Corruptor usage from Sleep, and there comes the Nidus Worm yet again. Of course, the Extractor giving Sleep a little bit of vision there, but you know, despite the massive amount of Corruptors that have come out on the map so far in this game, Sleep has just not been able to take the Colossi or the Void Rays down, and I think this is going to be a very hard part of playing in ZVP when it comes to Heart of the Swarm. There's going to be a few, lots of experimentation going on, but Sleep is really just starting to fall behind now. He's stuck on these few mining bases. In fact, it's just the 2 mining bases for the moment. His main, of course, is gone. The natural is gone, and realistically, just looking at his forces right now, he's sitting on, well, we've got 11 Broodlords, which is still quite a potent amount of Broodlords. There are the Swarm Hosts sitting inside the Nidus network still, along with 6 Corruptors. Corruptors, but I mean, 6 Corruptors not going to do too well against 11 Void Rays. We've got 7 Colossi, the 3 Tempests, not to mention, I'm pretty sure are there any more? We've got 1 more Tempest on the way out right now, but these guys are just looking deadly right now, and I'm sure Sleep knows that. And you know, I'll be really interested to see how this evolves once the game goes live. Of course, only 11 days to go until Heart of the Swarm is out and up and running. I'll be really interested to see how this particular matchup goes, just because of this situation where things have kind of, in a way, like in Wings of Liberty, you get to a point in PvZ where the Zerg army is just very hard to stop with Infestors, the Corruptors, the Broodlords, and of course, you know, any other additional units that come out, like the Infested Terrans and things like that. But this time, it's switched around. We've got Tempests, we've got Void Rays, even the Carriers, and of course these Colossi as well. So it's really interesting to see how this is going to go, but Sleep going to continue on with this harassment, needs to try and make sure that these swarm hosts are not just dead weight right now. I think it's even gotten to a point where he could probably just sacrifice them, like maybe send them in, burrow them right next to this base, try and get the Locust onto that base as quickly as possible to get some damage done, because these guys are really not doing too much right now. He needs the supply, he needs it in some Corruptors, he needs even in Hydras or something like this, but Hydras are still going to get obliterated by those Colossi. So at the present time, it kind of feels like Sleep needs to get rid of these swarm hosts, and in fact, did he get rid of them? Well, he lost a couple, he lost 1. Okay, so Bones is still going to continue to have that air dominance, which effectively means that he is going to be dominating the game for the time being, and Sleep is just starting to run out of resources. He's starting to lose some of his gas. We've only got him sitting down at about 200 gas at this point. Normally, you'd see a Zerg player on around about 5 or 6 bases right now, but he is just struggling. Bones continually denying the harassment on any of his bases, of course, with this powerful force out. He is just looking perfect right now, is our Protoss player from Triumph Esports. But we will see. What is he? Are you serious that Archon actually took a shot but didn't die? Normally when Archons use their lose their shields, they pretty much just die straight away because they've only got 10 health. But, that's kind of funny to see. But Bones continuing to get the upgrades coming along. We've got the air armor level 2 on the way, not to mention the +3 to shields as well. So he's going to be sitting very pretty in the air right now. And honestly, it's at a point where I'm not sure what Sleep can do. We've also got the Colossi just running across the map, trying to get some harassment done at the attempted 5th base of Sleep. But even with a Nidus Worm coming out, I'm not sure what this is going to do. Sleep valiantly trying to put down some Spine Crawlers to try and defend against this, but there is just too much here. And even though these Corruptors are going to grab a kill on the 2 Colossi that are there, that's going to free up a little bit more space. We can probably see a couple more Void Rays from Bones right now, maybe even another Tempest or 2. So he's really just controlling this game so well. We may see him move into this base here. Picking up his 6 would be wonderful for him, but as we said, he's at a point where he could probably just 1A across the map, but he's going to play it safe. He's just going to sit down, wait for Sleep to come at him. We've got +3 on the air armor on the way, and +3 to shields just about done. So we'll see probably a victory to Bones very soon. He's going to send an attack force up to the 5th base of Sleep, attempting to get some damage done there while the main force now moves through the middle section of the map. Looks like the Void Ray is going to power up very soon. Of course, they will need to try and deal with all these Corruptors and the Hydras on the ground, but with the Colossi there as well, the Hydras are probably going to get smashed straight away, not to mention there is also Storm available as well, and it looks like Sleep seeing a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to running back. He's going to try and catch up with the rest of the army and just provide his last-ditch effort to try and take out this deadly Protoss force, sort of controlling this top section here, and I think that pretty soon Bones is going to force a GG from Sleep, but Sleep still not content to just give up just yet. He's going to move around with the Hydras and the Corruptors and the Broodlords as well. Going to see what he can do. Of course, you know, the thing about the Broodlords is that if you can get in a good position, like hanging over this sort of dead zone, that can certainly help. But Bones, look at this guy. He's like a, I don't know, he's like just some crazy sort of horror story figurine where it's just teleporting everywhere you go, and Sleep is just having a nightmare right now because he just cannot get away from this army. He cannot find a weak spot, and it looks as if the weak spot of the Zerg army now is going to be exploited. Just this slow Broodlord army. Of course, the Colossi dealing with the Queens and the Hydras on the ground. The Corruptors have been obliterated straight away by those Void Rays with their prismatic alignment activated, doing intense amounts of damage, and that will be the end of Sleep here, I believe, because there is not too much left over for him to try and salvage here in this game. A few of these Swarm hosts that have been alive since the start of the game are being taken out by a DT, and there is a GG from Sleep. So just not able to contend with Bones in this case. Of course, Bones doing a wonderful job picking up that air army, taking his time, just eventually getting to this deadly composition of Void Rays, the Colossi, and of course those Tempests, and there is just not much that Sleep was able to do there. Just being restricted from taking 5 and 6 bases, so we see him go down in this game. Hope you all enjoyed that match. It was a lot of fun to cast that one. A long PvZ, a bit of a macro game with some interesting styles all the way through. Make sure you share with your friends and subscribe and all those cool things, and I'll catch you all next time. Ultralisk now starting to come into effect. Interestingly enough, they cannot get through this wall, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. Well, I'm pretty sure they can't. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't